Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. As you know, I normally try to keep politics off the channel, but occasionally there's something going on in society or the general news or politics that I feel like needs commentary and give it kind of a biblical or Christian worldview perspective. And this moment in the debate with the Virginia governor's race, I thought warranted such commentary. But before we go any further, don't forget to hit that subscribe bar and then the notification bell when it comes up so you can be notified when content's added to the channel, and comment on these videos, like them, share them, you know all that. But this is about a 7 or 8 minute segment from the debate last week between the two gubernatorial candidates in Virginia. We've got Winsome Earl Sears, who is the Republican nominee for governor. She is currently the lieutenant governor of Virginia. She's the first black woman to be elected to statewide office in Virginia. She was born in Jamaica and immigrated here legally and is now competing for the top spot in Virginia. Now, Virginia, like New Jersey, holds their elections in odd-numbered years. They're held the year after a presidential election. New Jersey is deep blue. The last Republican I can remember being governor there was Chris Christie. He did 2 terms and came in strong and kind of went out on a whimper. I think his numbers were down really low when he left office after a second term. And he tried to run for the Republican nomination for president at least once and didn't get anywhere. And so Virginia is considered purple, but they've had a pretty successful run of electing Democrats as governor. Glenn Youngkin, the current governor, is a Republican, and I think he's the first Republican. I don't know. You'd have to go back quite a ways. Now, Virginia is the last state in the union where the governor is one and done, meaning he gets elected. He cannot run for a consecutive term. He can, or I guess in this case it'll be a she, run for a term, but they have to stand down after their first term. In 4 years, Youngkin can come back and run again if he wants to. But I kind of doubt it. I don't think too many of them have done that. So whichever one of these women gets elected, they're one term unless Virginia changes the law, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. And that was fairly common, by the way, in a lot of states, particularly in the South. Governors were one term and then had to stand down. Anyway, she is running for governor, seems to have pretty typical Republican positions on issues. She did run into a racist at the Arlington County School Board meetings that had to do with the county's transgender policy, the transgender locker room and bathroom policy. She was targeted, and I'm just reading this from an article, by a racist sign in a crowd protesters outside the venue. It read, "Hey, Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." All 3 Democrat nominees for state office denounced the sign, with Earl Sears' opponent, Abigail Spangberger, stating no matter how much one might find someone else's beliefs objectionable, to threaten a return of Jim Crow and segregation to a black woman is unacceptable. Right on the money, Ms. Spangberger. That was pretty good. I think a pretty good reply. Winsome Sears was simply stating the facts. There's 2 genders, male, female. Men don't belong in the women's locker rooms. Women don't belong in the men's locker rooms. That's it. Period. Full stop. We're done with that issue. Moving right along. Winsome Sears is a former Marine, enlisted in I believe it was 83 to 86. She was in the Marine Corps. And then her opponent, Abigail Spangberger, is an American politician. She's a former CIA officer, and she represented Virginia's 7th Congressional District in Congress from 2019 to 2025. And the problem in the segment we're going to be looking at in this debate is about this man, Jay Jones, running for Attorney General. He was a member of the Virginia House of Delegates, which in most other states would be the House of Representatives, representing the Delegate District 89. And he made some comments in some text messages that have come to light that, quite frankly, show him, well, I'm just going to play the tape here, and then I'm going to stop it and make my comments on it. I just saw it for the first time earlier this morning. It is Friday now of fall break, and I'm going to be getting back to the daily devotional and Bible studies. I wanted to start it next Monday on the 20th, but it's probably going to be on the 27th, just an FYI for those who like to tune into them. I've done a short or 2 that I've posted this week, and I'm going to try and get some more. But anyway, let's roll the tape here, and then I'm going to stop it in a couple places and make some comments. And this is from the debate held between Winsome Earl Sears and Abigail Spangburner, candidates for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Well, let's roll the tape.
Our next question is about the temperature and tone of political speech. The first example has been shaping the race for governor and attorney general for the past week. You both will have a chance for rebuttal. Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones admits he sent text messages to a colleague referencing former Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert. Here's what he wrote.
Jones. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Colleague. Jay, please stop. Jones. LOL, okay. I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. Colleague. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Jones. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy.
Jay Jones has apologized and says he takes full responsibility for those messages. Ms. Spamberger, you have called the comments disgusting and said you condemn violence. The question for you tonight is, were you aware of these messages before they were released publicly? And will you continue to endorse Jay Jones as the next Attorney General of Virginia? You have 60 seconds.
The comments that Jay Jones made are absolutely abhorrent. I denounced them when I learned of them, and I will denounce them every opportunity I get. As a mother, as a public servant, as a candidate for governor, I denounce them. And it is important that candidates always denounce violence on no matter which side of the aisle. Violence, violent rhetoric, we should always be focused and forceful in our denouncement of it.
Are you going to tell him
and
to get
importantly, my opponent unfortunately only denounces violence when her side is the target.
Don't
I
lie
hope
like that,
into
Abigail.
the future she will endeavor to denounce violent rhetoric and violence no matter who the victim. And tonight, Lieutenant Governor Earl Sears, I will say, you routinely referred to me as your enemy.
Just please give her a chance to respond.
You routinely refer to me as your enemy. I'm not your enemy. You are not my enemy. We are political opponents, and tonight voters are here to listen to the policy differences that we have. So as we move forward, we must continue to set a good example for all of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Spamberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue, so I want to just make sure. Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they released? You have 30 seconds.
In fact, it appears that it was those who released the text messages and held them for years. So the public was unaware who had knowledge of these text messages for many years. I learned of these text messages the day that they came out, and I denounced them as soon as I learned of them.
She denounces murder.
And importantly, at this point, as we move forward, the voters now have this information that was withheld for them.
You're running to
presumably for political reasons, but the voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Spamberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about her lieutenant governor nominee.
Ms. Earl Sears,
and it's up to every person to make their own decision. I am running my race to serve Virginia, and that is what I intend to do.
Thank you, Ms. Spamberger. We just want to clarify, what you're saying is that as of now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General.
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. I am running for governor. I am accountable for the words that I say, for the acts that I take, for the policies that I have put out.
Thank you.
I am responsible for the policies I put out and the work I will endeavor to do tirelessly for the people of Virginia.
Thank you, Ms. Spamberger. Ms. Earl Sears, before we get to
Apologies for that. My trigger finger got a little bit itchy there and I hit it a little soon. Now, they were talking over each other there a little bit, so it was hard to hear all of Spangberger's answers. But my best guess is she knew about these text messages before they came out. I don't know who the colleague is that had these text messages. I don't know if colleague, he or she, released these messages, if somebody hacked somebody's text messaging. I don't know. But they're out in the public. This is like when Ralph Northam was governor before Youngkin, and the pictures of his blackface from his medical school days suddenly came out. Those were in a yearbook with several hundred copies floating around, so people knew they were there. They came out at an inopportune time for him, and you can go back and look at that and what that was all about. But whoever had these text messages, I don't know that they were sitting on them with the intent to release them, but they're out there in the public domain now. And Spangberger's reluctance to tell Jones to get out of the race tells me that her denunciation of violence there at the beginning of her answer is at best half-hearted. I don't trust her on this issue, and I certainly don't trust Jones. If I'm in Virginia, I'm not voting for him. Even if I'm a Democrat, I am not voting for that man for Attorney General. He's got no business being in the top law enforcement spot in any state. But we'll see what happens. I haven't looked at any polls for the AG's race, but he's got no business being the Attorney General. He should be out of the race. Okay, so let's go on and hear now what Winsome Sears has got to say in her answers to similar questions that Spangler got.
Rebuttals, because we will get to rebuttals. We have a question for you. While there is no equivalency, this next example does speak to the divided nature of our country. During the Charlie Kirk Memorial, President Trump said, quote, "I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them." Is there a place for that kind of political speech? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I think, as everybody knows, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian before I'm a Republican, and I'm required to forgive people. And it's hard sometimes when somebody has abused you, etc., but it's something you must do, because not to forgive is almost like, as someone said, you drink poison thinking that it's going to affect the other person. And I want to live a decent life, and I don't want to not have peace in my life. And so as I've said before, I would not say that. So that's why I'm wondering why my opponent won't say, beyond it's abhorrent and disgusting, why she won't say it is not okay and that he must leave the race, because J. Jones advocated the murder, Abigail, the murder of a man, a former speaker, as well as his children who were 2 and 5 years old. You have little girls. What would it take him pulling the trigger? Is that what would do it? And then you would say he needs to get out of the race? Abigail, you have nothing to say? Abigail, what if he said it about your 3 children? Is that when you would say he should get out of the race, Abigail? You're running to be governor.
Ms. Earl Sears, I know you're saying that you would not personally say this, but do you think still that there is that place for that kind of rhetoric, the example that we gave, even coming from others? You have 30 seconds.
So I'm responsible for my behavior, and what I've just said, I wouldn't say that. I would not speak that way. Look, I'm from a third world country. I was born in Jamaica, and when I was 10 years old, I saw that kind of political violence, which is why I'm asking my opponent to please ask him to get out of the race. Have some political courage. What you have done is you are taking political calculations about your future as governor. Well, as governor, you have to make hard choices, and that means telling J. Jones to leave the race. I have seen what it means when people are shot in the streets and thrown in the back of cars just for political purposes. I don't want to see that in America. America must never be that place, and Abigail needs to say something.
Okay, now if Winsome Sears was in my class and in a Bible school setting, and we're talking about forgiveness, and she wrote that answer down as the answer to the essay or the short answer, I'm thinking if I'm in a good mood, she's going to get a C, most likely a C minus. And that's about what I would give Spangberger on her answer. Both of these had the opportunity to hit out of the park home runs, and they didn't do it. Winsome Sears answered. The short answer should have been no. Trump had no business making that remark. Now, me personally, I think Trump was trying to be sarcastic, but it fell flat. Now, at funerals, you can sometimes get away with a little humor, but that kind of humor is not appropriate. And I don't know who made the decision to have I know who made the decision. It would have been up to Erica Kirk to decide to have final say in who gets to speak or do anything at her husband's memorial. If it were my spouse that we were having the memorial for, I'm not letting the politicians anywhere near it. They can come and sit in the audience. I'll even give them front row seats. But as far as the speaking part, ixnay on that. But now I say that, having been a minister for 31 years and having done a few funerals and sat in on some of the planning meetings, I know there can be a tremendous amount of pressure exerted on whoever it is that's making the decisions to let somebody speak or somebody sing or play an instrument or have a public part in the memorial. So I don't know what kind of pressure Erica Kirk was under. I don't know who was back there telling her, hey, it's a great opportunity. We got the president and the vice president wanting to speak, and this person and that person. Then again, she might have been all for it, on board. I don't know. But the politicians at a ceremony like that, a service like that, they got no business being there. Keep the politics out of it. And so as for the Virginia gubernatorial race, I think Winsome Sears had the opportunity to really come out and say that kind of talk has no place in American politics. Now, I don't know why, but as far as I can tell, Donald Trump has not given his endorsement of her. I think he should. I think she would probably be ahead in the polls if he would do that. I would certainly give her my endorsement if I lived in Virginia. But as far as the AG race goes, I don't know who the Republican is. I don't know what the polls in that race are. But for Jones, no way. That's a no-go on him, just based on those text messages. Now, when it comes to polling on political races, I typically look at the Cook Report and Real Clear Politics. They're pretty accurate. Real Clear Politics typically takes the top 4 or 5 reputable polls and averages them. And as you can see, this is as of 2 days ago. It's October 17th as I'm making this. And this came out on the 15th. You can see Spangberger's got a 6.5 point lead over Sears. Really, that should be flipped after that remark that she made, where she wouldn't call on Jones to get out of the race. That tells me that her denunciation of violence that she gave at the beginning of her answer is at best half-hearted. That if there was something actually to happen to a Republican or a conservative, she's going to be silent, or she'll make some half-hearted denunciation of it, because I don't trust her on this at all. And there's some other more troubling data on this front about political violence. And this is once again from The Hill. Liberals more likely to say political violence sometimes justified. And there are several others that have reported on this. Let's scroll down here. Americans largely agree political violence is never justified, but a new poll shows liberals are more likely than conservatives to say violence can be warranted in order to achieve political goals. This is right straight out of Left-Wing Politics 101. This was Lenin, this was Stalin, this was the Nazis and the fascists, by the way. In the YouGov survey, which I've looked at the original survey, in the immediate aftermath of the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, 72% of Americans said violence is never justified, while 11% said it can sometimes be justified. Another 12% said they're not sure, and 6% preferred not to say. So you've got 18% there that I think are too afraid to answer. The answer is no. Political violence is never justified. Period. Full stop. That's it. We're done. Bye. See ya. 26% of liberals under 45 years old, compared to just 12% of liberals 45 or older, said that political violence can sometimes be justified. 12% of moderate under 45-year-olds compared to 6% of moderate 45 and over said it's sometimes justified, and 7% of younger conservatives compared with 4% of older conservatives said it is sometimes justified. Another YouGov Snap poll taken 2 days later showed 18% of liberals and 7% of conservatives and 6% of moderates said violence is sometimes justified to achieve political goals. A September 11th Snap poll asked respondents about whether it's acceptable for a person to be happy about the death of a public figure they oppose. Liberals were again more likely to say it's usually or always acceptable to be happy about a public figure's death, with 16% holding this position, including 24% of very liberal respondents and 10% who said they identify as liberal but not very liberal. Only 4% of conservatives and 7% of moderates held this view. Now let me help you in case you're on the fence or you're not sure, or you even think that political violence is acceptable. The answer is a big fat no. It is never acceptable. And when you get the opportunity to denounce it, you should just say so in the strongest terms. I denounce the political violence. If my opponent or anybody in the race is advocating for it, or even looks like they're advocating for it, they need to get out of the race, even if that means the other party might win. And have some integrity about it. That ain't what we do here, brother. That is not acceptable. And yes, Jay Jones needs to be out of the race. And Spangberger needs to condemn him and tell him to pull out of the race. And Winsome Sears needs to say that Donald Trump's remarks were wrong. He shouldn't have said them. So that's all I've got for right now in this Musings on Miscellaneous Matters. Tell me what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment on these videos, like them, share them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Be good to yourself, and if you possibly can, be good to somebody else.